Superior brand building takes time. It requires strategic management of customer perceptions, emotions, beliefs, and attitudes to create brand value. Because customers build brands, not companies. That's why superior brand building also requires an understanding of human psychology and how it affects customer behavior. Psychosensory principles for brand building are principles that reveal how environment, social context, emotional state, and more can shape customer behavior. Understanding those psychological principles and knowing which ones to take action upon and gain insights from can help brands connect and engage with customers on a level they never before thought possible. In what follows, we address the psychosensory principles for brand building known as attribution bias. Attribution refers to the way in which we attribute the causes of our own or others' behavior. An attribution bias is a natural tendency we have when evaluating why people behave the way they do. We attribute the cause of our own and others' behavior to either internal or external causes. The internal causes are based on the individual characteristics of the person, while external causes are typically based on the situation or circumstance. So think of an attribution bias simply as our tendency to attribute the behavior of others to internal characteristics and our own behavior to environmental or external causes. When we do this, we tend to be more forgiving of our own behavior and less so of others. For example, assume there's someone aggressively weaving in and out of traffic to get ahead. Now, most people will immediately attribute the cause to something like that person's being self-centered, or they're intoxicated, or just a jerk in general, or possibly even a combination of all of these. Yet few would stop to ask themselves whether that individual might be trying to get to the hospital for an emergency, or maybe pursuing a kidnapper who has their child, or just attempting to save a suicidal friend. Or how about this? A job candidate stumbles slightly on the way into an interview room. Most of us immediately attribute the cause to the person being clumsy or not very observant, or maybe the nerves are taking over, or possibly worse, they're drunk. But again, how many would stop to consider whether or not the threshold to the doorway was raised, or maybe someone just spilled some coffee, or the transition from the carpet to the concrete created an uneven footing? So what does this mean for brands? Brands live in our thoughts, perceptions, and emotions. That means when a brand does something, or something happens to it, that brand is subject to the same attribution bias that affects how we interpret human behavior. And if what happens to a brand is bad, the bottom line is the brand will be blamed. Let's look at 3 examples that illustrate this attribution bias for brands based on internal reasons. First, there's Toyota's challenges with unintended acceleration. People immediately attributed the cause of the safety problems to poor quality control, or that the brand valued sales over safety. Also, substandard engineering practices, faulty software, and more have been mentioned. Then there's Malaysia Airlines and its loss of several flights. People quickly attributed the cause to the airline having inferior technology and safety standards, and that they were deliberately attempting to misinform the public on the tragedies. Further, there must have been an inadequate employee training program or poor strategy for flight routes. Finally, there's the NRA, who mindlessly tweeted, "Happy Friday, shooters," the day after the now infamous Aurora, Colorado shooting incident. People quickly interpreted that as the NRA being all about selling guns and not caring about human life. The lesson for brands is simple, but not always easy to put into practice. Because the public will have the tendency to attribute bad news or behaviors to a brand's character, brands must plan for the negative eventualities and help the public see them as positively as possible.